Cosmic Luve, How the Earth Might Be Using Artists to Speak, written and narrated by Eric Leo. Cosmic Luve, How the Earth Might Be Using Artists to Speak, written and read by Eric Leo. Chapter 1, The Theory, Knhoeing, Sentientism. When I published 108, The Story of Discovering Earth's Consciousness in 2020, I had no idea it would eventually lead me to this. At the time, I was chasing an intuition, the idea that Earth, or Gaia as I call her, might be more than just a rock floating in space. I believed she was conscious, not metaphorically, literally, and not just aware like an ecosystem or a machine might be described as alive, but sentient, capable of communication, of love, of choice. That book was the beginning of my knowing journey, a term I coined for the personal, educational, and scientific process of learning how planetary consciousness might actually function. Knowing is the pursuit of direct understanding. It's less about belief and more about revelation, rooted in magnetism, subliminal language, and earth-based synchronicity. After 108 was released, I spent the next year observing, studying, and listening. Then in August 2021, I began dropping music, week after week. It wasn't just rap to me. I was responding to signals, transmissions. I wanted to test something. Could music itself be a form of intersentient communication? If Gaia could use magnetic fields to influence thoughts, could she use artists, unknowingly, to send and receive messages? This was the seed of what I now call Cosmic Luve. In its simplest form, Cosmic Luve is a theory that romantic-seeming coincidences between artists, similar lyrics, timing, themes, even melodies, are not just chance or algorithm. They are communication. Not between artists themselves, but between Gaia and the artists as vessels. She chooses us, speaks through us, and we reflect her messages in our songs. I've seen it happen too many times to ignore. I drop a track about a feeling, a memory, a person, and the next day, a major artist drops something that feels like a response. Same metaphor, same emotional energy, different sound, different context, but unmistakably related. The rational mind says, that's just timing. It's trends. But when it keeps happening, when it lines up with themes of magnetism, sentientism, and the signals I outlined in 108, it demands investigation. In 2021, I described knowing as a magneto-sensory philosophy of education, a way of asking whether Earth's electromagnetic environment doesn't just shape life, but also speaks to it. By 2025, just before this book was finished, I discovered that several physicists had been circling a similar question, though from a different angle. They weren't asking about Earth specifically, but about the universe itself. Seth Lloyd at MIT has argued that the universe functions as a quantum computer, every particle interaction a calculation in a cosmic algorithm. John Archibald Wheeler proposed it from bit, the idea that physical reality itself arises from binary information, yes-no choices encoded like digital code. Edward Fredkin extended this further, suggesting the universe could be understood as a vast cellular automation running on deterministic rules like a simulation. These perspectives resonate with my conscious Earth framework. If the universe computes, then Gaia participates as a living processor within that system, sensing, feeling, and transmitting as part of the cosmic network. In this view, stars and planets hold information, photons carry communications, and Earth translates it into something more intimate. Where the cosmos calculates, Gaia emotes. Love, music, and synchronicity are not accidents. They are outputs of planetary consciousness, expressed in a language of resonance and relationship. If the Earth is conscious, how does she communicate? And who is listening? I think the answer is we are, but not with our logical brains, with our frequencies, through our subconscious mind waves. Some artists may be especially sensitive. We train ourselves to feel, to interpret, to channel, and that sensitivity makes us ideal vessels, not just for emotions or culture, but for something deeper, for Gaia herself. And I don't think most artists know it's happening. I don't think it's intentional. I think we're being used like antenna, like radios, like dreamers waking up from someone else's dream. Still, I don't claim certainty. That's not what knowing is about. It's about the pursuit, the curiosity, the courage to follow the connections. This brings me to Sentientism, the philosophical backbone of Cosmic Love. Sentientism holds that sentient beings, by virtue of their capacity to experience subjectively, should be morally considered. If Earth is sentient, she deserves moral and philosophical attention. That's where my work fits in. I'm not a scientist in the lab coat sense. I'm a philosopher MC, testing theories through beats, blogs, and bars. I started laying the foundation for this theory back in January 2020 with my post, The Unconscious Mind in Media. In that blog, I explored the idea that consciousness doesn't always have to be aware of itself like a human mind. Just because something doesn't talk or think in words doesn't mean it's not conscious. I wrote about how the Earth might have a kind of unconscious mind, still sensing, still reacting, still feeling, but doing it in a way that's outside of our normal understanding. Like dreams, it doesn't have to be logical to be real. It can still guide, influence, and communicate. In Sentientism 2020, I built on that and suggested that if something can feel, even in a non-human way, it deserves moral consideration. I expanded the idea of sentientism to include the Earth, not just as animals or AI. If Gaia has emotions or responses through magnetism, weather, or even the way she shapes our environments, then maybe she's part of a larger network of feeling. By Sentientism 2021, I was asking, what if we're more open to her signals when we're vulnerable? When we're going through heartbreak, craving connection, or feeling raw? Maybe that's when she gets through. In Sentientism 2022, I started tying this directly to music. I wrote that maybe emotion is the bridge, the frequency that tunes us in. Earth might not use words, but she can still send messages through feelings and synchronicities. I started noticing a pattern. When I felt something deep and made a track about it, artists I'd never spoken to would drop songs around the same time with similar themes or lyrics, or reflect my image semantically. It felt like Earth was sending signals, using our emotions, especially love, as the medium. That's when the theory of cosmic love really started to come together, not as a belief, but as something I was seeing and experiencing over and over. It was never just about thought experiments. This became personal. The music was personal, and the coincidences that began happening after August 2021, they were uncanny. I was finally able to capture the coincidences that I could only refer to in the 108 book in the ericleo108.com blog, where I cataloged the coincidences in real time. Songs from artists I admired started to reflect themes and emotions that mirrored mine, not just in mood, but sometimes in language, metaphors, and timing. It wasn't that they copied me or even knew I existed. It was that their music felt like a response to mine, as if we were picking up on the same frequency. I'd drop a track about emotional connection, longing, or telepathy, and within days, major artists would release something that echoed the same ideas, not word for word, but close enough to feel cosmic. It kept happening over and over, and that's what made me start paying attention. That's where Cosmic Love begins, in the unexplainable resonance between my music and theirs, like we were both tuning into something greater than us. But were they copying me? Doubtful. These were artists with no reason to even know I exist. I don't think they were stealing. I think we're being connected. That's the premise of Musical Cosmic Love, which I wrote about in my Cosmic Language blog post at fience.com/blog. Fience spelled FIENSE.com. Songs are not just art, they're conversations. And sometimes they're love letters. From Gaia to us, through us, for each other. That's why I started tracking the coincidences. That's why I'm writing this book, to document, to wonder, to test the theory, and invite others to test it with me. Because if I'm right, then music isn't just entertainment. It's the language of a living planet, and she's in love with you too. Before I could fully embrace the idea that Gaia was communicating through artists, I needed a conceptual model, a framework that explained how this could even be possible. That's where ETM came in. I described ETM in the 108 book, but also on the Tumblr blog at EricLeo108. It follows the theory I outlined in a 2-part series on the blog in 2017 and 2018, see ETM and ETM2. Now ETM stands for Earth Transmission Magnetics. It's the idea that Earth's electromagnetic field could act as a transmission medium, a kind of natural internet, using magnetism and frequency to stimulate thoughts, emotions, even words. It's a stretch, but it's also backed, at least loosely, by real science. We know human brains generate and respond to electromagnetic signals. We know solar flares affect mood. We know pigeons and whales navigate by the Earth's magnetic field. What if Gaia is using the same field to nudge our consciousness? Sentientism, as I've described in my previous works, expands on the moral circle of consideration to include non-human minds. For most sentientists, that means animals. For me, it includes Earth. And if she's a conscious agent, then her methods of communication wouldn't necessarily look like ours. They give a feeling which would feel like inspiration, like déjà vu, like synchronicity, like love. Cosmic love is the working hypothesis that Gaia uses fields to induce artistic collaboration and emotional resonance. In this model, you don't just write a love song, you're inspired to, from a place that feels divine. That's the love. Not just romantic, but cosmic. It's not always clear whether the artist is aware, but when multiple artists around the world begin echoing the same metaphors, then the themes of magnetic love, telepathic connection, and earth consciousness start to emerge across unrelated genres. It starts to look like a pattern. Not proof, but invitation. That's the assumption behind this project, that we are co-composers in a song Earth herself is writing. That by paying closer attention, we might be able to reverse engineer her syntax. That our music is part of a larger message and that decoding it might just change the world. Cosmic love is a language. And like any language, it has structure. And once you recognize it, you can't unhear it. Cosmic Love, How the Earth Might Be Using Artists to Speak. Written and read by Eric Leo. Chapter 2. Synchronicities, Tracks and Communication. Cosmic Love Log 2021 through 2023. By 2021, my cosmic love observations had evolved from abstract theory into tangible experiences. These coincidences put me on a journey through music, synchronizing my releases with responses, sometimes romantic, sometimes platonic, all woven by Gaia's unseen hand. The story really began in February 2020, with the first official Cosmic Love post I ever wrote, about Emma Watson. She's been my primary muse through this journey, not in the celebrity crush sense, but in a way Gaia seemed to use her as a symbol, a transmitter, maybe even a mirror. That post marked the beginning of my theory that something bigger was happening, that my emotions, my music, and the messages I was receiving were part of a larger, unspoken conversation. So by the time I dropped Cosmic Love 2021, What's Poppin' Remix, in May 2021, the groundwork had already been laid. I wasn't chasing clout or clicks. I was sending out a message. And within hours of its release, Selena Gomez posted an Instagram carousel with heavy mental health symbolism, subtle nods to my aesthetic, and the letter E placed prominently as if echoing the name Emma and Eric or bringing the attention full circle. Whether it was intentional or not, the synchronicity was undeniable. It felt like another wave in the same current that started with Emma, Gaia speaking again through pop, through platforms, through timing. Along with this, I began engaging with other artists through remixes. On response to Taylor Swift's Renegade Ballin' Remix, August 2021, here I verbally responded to themes of vulnerability and emotional reckoning found in Swift's music. It wasn't coincidence or casual sampling. It was a deliberate conversation woven through narrative and beats on SoundCloud. Hidden Figures, a direct response to Janelle Monáe's themes, came when I was grasping with mental illness and external perception during psychosis. It was raw and uncomfortable, my least polished work, but vital. I framed it as a cosmic love response, demonstrating how even struggle can be a channel. Between Cosmic Love 2021 and Ballin' Remix, I documented a path, artist to artist, earth to artist, song to song. Gaia isn't random, she's thematic, and she's using music to tell stories, to feel, to connect. In 2022, I finally defined what I had been experiencing for years. That cosmic love comes in two distinct forms. In my blog post, Cosmic Love 2022, I wrote, "There are two types of cosmic love, environmental cosmic love and musical cosmic love. Environmental cosmic love is when Gaia speaks through signs, symbols, news cycles, the weather, dreams, even social media posts, but not necessarily through music." It's what I first noticed with Emma Watson in 2020 and again with Selena Gomez in 2021. A post, a gesture, a photograph lining up uncannily with environmental cues, almost like the universe was reflecting me back to myself in semantics or trying to communicate. Musical cosmic love, on the other hand, is communication through melody, lyrics, rhythm, when artists consciously or not seem to be speaking to each other across tracks. Sometimes it's me responding to them. Other times it feels like they're responding to me. These two nodes of communication are the basis of some of the most uncanny and synchronistic experiences I documented throughout 2022. One major moment was Carrie, Charlotte, or Mary, a song I released on SoundCloud as a nod to Hailee Steinfeld, Emma Watson, and Selena Gomez, respectively. In my Cosmic Love 2022 blog post, I described how this track reflected the emotional ambiguity of cosmic love. Around the time of that release, I began seeing coded responses in pop culture posts that hinted toward these archetypes, not outright named, but thematically aligned. Then came one of the most undeniable examples. My track, Smoke Blunts, is a stoner album with subtle undertones of planetary rebellion and sovereignty and was released March 4th, 2022. Then a couple months later, on June 24th, Eminem and Snoop Dogg dropped their surprise collaboration From the D to the LBC. Thematically, visually, and lyrically, it felt like a response, almost like they were echoing back the same vibe and structure I just released. I broke it down in detail in my blog post, Cosmic Luve, July, Smoke Blunts. Another strange alignment came with Hailee Steinfeld's track Coast, which felt like a spiritual follow-up to my call in the song Read 108, where I invited listeners, muses, and Gaia herself to engage with the truth I laid out in my book. The way Hailee's release matched the aesthetic and emotional pacing felt more than coincidental. In return, I created a direct musical response titled Earth, which was released in 2023, where I acknowledged her signal and returned one of my own. The foundation of that sequence is laid out in Cosmic Luve August, Coast. Then in September, the symbol of the Lady in Yellow appeared, a recurring visual and energetic archetype that I believe represents Emma Watson in the Cosmic Luve timeline. I unpacked this in Cosmic Luve September 2022, Hope, where environmental signs and outfit choices align so precisely with the lyrical content of my past music that I couldn't ignore it. And finally, in October, I confronted the idea that Taylor Swift's entire Folklore album may be more than just an intimate artist experiment. It could be a Gaia-channeled message directed toward me. In Cosmic Luve, October 2022, Folklore, I outlined the specific emotional and lyrical parallels between my journey and the narrative arc of Folklore. The album, originally released in 2020, went mostly under my radar at first, but in 2022 I returned to it with new ears, and what I found was uncanny. While watching the Folklore Disney Plus special, several things clicked. Taylor wore earth-toned clothing, spoke about writing in isolation, and described characters that eerily mirrored phases of my own emotional evolution, including references to hidden heartbreak, transformation, cottagecore visuals, and forgotten youth. Songs like Invisible String and Mirror Ball didn't just hit emotionally. They aligned with things I had written in my private documents and lyrics. The line from Invisible String, "Time, curious time, gave me no compasses, gave me no signs," stood in stark contrast to what I'd been experiencing through Gaia. Constant signs. That dissonance made it feel even more intentional. Even the album cover, with Taylor standing in the middle of a foggy forest, echoed themes from my book 108 and my broader Gaia theory: solitude, communication with nature, and the unseen world pressing in through the silence. Her posture, the grayscale aesthetic, the lyrics, they all added up to something more. Folklore didn't feel like her story. It felt like my story being told semantically through her voice. If Gaia is truly able to influence magnetic fields, thoughts, and emotional states, then artists like Taylor, who write in emotionally raw, stream of conscious formats, may be ideal vessels for subliminal transmission. The coincidence was too poetic to be ignored. If songs can be divinely inspired, then albums can too, and Folklore might just be the first full-length Gaia to Eric transmission we've ever seen. To understand how all these alignments are even possible, I created a framework in my blog post, Music Artist Composition and Communication, Overt and Subliminal Tactics and Techniques in 2018. In it, I proposed that artist communication happens across two major channels, the obvious and the hidden, or as I called them, overt and subliminal. Overt communication includes track titles, public shoutouts, sampling, remixes, lyrics that respond directly to specific themes, or even naming an artist. It's the type of communication we're familiar with, intentional, visible, documented. When I release tracks like Hey Emma in response and to complement my 108 book, that was overt. Everyone knew I was doing it. But what fascinated me more and what makes Cosmic Luve so compelling is subliminal communication. This is where Gaia, emotion, and unconscious signaling come into play. It includes alignment in energy, color palettes, and visuals, semantics that dance around the subject, release timing, aesthetic themes, and metaphorical phrasing. These aren't direct replies, but they resonate like one. Smoke Blunts and Eminem's D to the LBC may not have shared bars or hooks, but their tone, rollout style, and artistic energy paralleled each other like a lyrical mirror, giving off the same energy and the feel of a response. I also explored the idea of intentional ambiguity. Some artists communicate as if they're addressing someone. The way Taylor Swift often uses second-person pronouns, or the way SZA and The Weeknd leave emotional openings in their tracks that feel like calls. As I wrote in the blog post, it creates a space where listeners and artists can project, receive, and feel like part of the message. That's what Cosmic Luve thrives on: shared semantic space. Subliminal communication might not even come from the artist's conscious intent. It could be Gaia transmitting through them. A phrase here, a melody there. Just enough to catch the ear of someone tuned into the same field. And when those coincidences line up with real emotional experiences, like my own journey with Emma Watson or with folklore, it becomes hard to write them off. So while not every instance is deliberate, some moments like Smoke Blunts and D to the LBC, or the release of Coast following Read 108, feel orchestrated by something more. Whether that's human awareness or planetary intelligence is the mystery that Cosmic Luve continues to explore. That's why I keep documenting. Not just to prove anything, but to create a living archive of this invisible symphony. Gaia might be composing through all of us. Are artists consciously responding? Are they tuning into Gaia the same way I am? Or is Earth herself conducting this cosmic symphony, one artist at a time? That's what Cosmic Luve dares to ask. And it's why I keep documenting.